We have head coach Dean Paul with us today to preview the 2023 season for the Ohio Northern football team. Coach, coming off a 2-game win streak to end last season, what are your thoughts going into 2023?
Well, I think that's the way you want to finish. You always want to finish strong, and you try to kind of separate some of the things that happened early in the year, but at the same time, you don't want to ignore them because there's lessons that need to be learned as we reflect back on last year. But we feel like we're optimistic because the way we finished, the way recruiting, we were able to add some good pieces in recruiting, and I think we had good retention. So we feel like some of those things are kind of definitely heading in the right direction.
Good. The ONU football team traveled to Italy over the summer and defeated an Italian all-star team 79-0. Well, can you just describe what that entire experience was like for you guys?
Well, it's our 6th trip. It's an amazing experience for the players. The culture, the sightseeing, but also the football. Not every player goes because they have to do some fundraising, of course, but a good portion of our guys went, probably 2/3 of our group. So I think some good bonding, some just time away from football. We practice a couple times when we have the game, but just the time they spend together, and maybe some guys that don't always hang out together are spending time, just in a different country, seeing the sights and having a great time. So I think it's a good thing that we want to continue to do.
And as far as the sightseeing goes, can you just talk about some of the favorites that maybe some of the players mentioned that they really enjoyed?
Yeah, so we've been there a couple times before, but of course I don't think any of the players had been. But we wanted to do some things that were highlights previously. Of course, in Rome, the Colosseum and the Forum and the Vatican and things along those lines. But we also, had kind of targeted to do a couple things, maybe see a few things we hadn't seen before, like the Amalfi Coast. And that was definitely a highlight. I think it lived up to the billing of things that we read or pictures you see on different social media platforms. So it was pretty awesome. It was a good mix of the Rome for a couple of days, the Amalfi Coast, and we finished back in Rome, and it was awesome.
And kind of going forward into this season, what most excites you about this year's roster?
I think the guys are hungry. I think they're working. I think I love our staff, just some of the mix of staff. And I think a coaching staff is a lot like, I play a little bit of golf, I guess, not very well, but pretty average. But a golf scramble. You can have some really good golfers, but if some of the skills don't always complement one another, you might not quite do as well as you could if you have some guys that just really mesh well together. And I think the complementary skills, is really important, and backgrounds and strengths of our coaches. So I think we've got a good mix with our staff of people that really complement each other well. And I think then the players that have come back seem that they built off of what we did in the spring, and I think there's some good pieces of the puzzle we've added. You always want to recruit more. You're never completely satisfied in recruiting. You always feel like you can just continue to get better. But we added some good players. Some came in the spring, a couple transfers, and I think we just have some good pieces that we've added. So now it's about staying healthy at the right spots. It's about continuing to move forward, but we feel like there's some things definitely pointing in the right direction.
And lastly, give us some thoughts on how the OAC stacks up this year after playing a nationally ranked Alma team to start out the year.
It's going to be a brutal schedule. Probably one of the most difficult schedules in the history of the program. You have the OAC grind, and there's 4 teams in the OAC with votes in the national polls in the preseason, and really good schedule with that conference, of course. And even the teams that aren't ranked are not going to give you anything. So that's the way it's kind of been trending here the last few years. But then you throw in a team that wins the national playoffs, Alma, one of the best, I think it might be the best year in the history of the program. They went 11-1, they went to Sweet 16, played a second round game really, really tough, have a lot of guys coming back, so that's your opener, and then you go into the OAC. But the good news with that is, of course it'd be nice to maybe have a game or something to kind of get ready for a team like that, but we've had 2 good scrimmages, joint practices and scrimmages against quality opponents. We've been working hard, sense of urgency when you have a game like that right at the gate. You can't waste a day, you can't waste a practice, you can't waste a meeting. So I think that sense of urgency, I hope, will pay dividends as we move forward.
Thank you, Coach. The Polar Bear football team opens its season September 2nd at number 24 Alma at 12 p.m.